So you are now the author of a children's book. So it's Jack's Adventures of the Scary Kind, which I love. I've read it. I read it out loud to the office because after your recommendation of reading it out loud, to try and get the rhyming in there, which is really lovely. But what sparked your decision to write it?
So had my brother had a baby, so it was like first, like, I'm an auntie for the first time.
Oh,
And I had this idea for a long time to try and teach kids about internet safety, because they're growing up in a world I am so not qualified to talk about this. I don't have any kids, and I'm also not a teacher or a child psychologist, but I just think a lot of people that are in um, cybersecurity, from my background in digital forensics, are concerned about the amount of access children have to other people, and the amount of people that have access to children,
yeah.
and how private and hidden that can be. So that just concerned me, and it always did. It always concerned me, and I thought I would just write a book about it one day. And then we had a new baby in the family, and I thought, you know what, I'll just do it now. So that's where it came from.
Oh, that's such an authentic way of doing it. Like it actually is something that affects you personally rather than it just being something that you are like seeing out there. I think that's really nice. Have you read it
Well,
to the
yeah,
baby yet?
I haven't, but pretty much everyone I know that's got a baby, I've sent them a copy. And I mean, I just don't actually care if no one reads it. I just wanted to do it, but actually, a lot of people have given me some really nice feedback on it, which is great. Um, and I remember when I was little, I don't know about you, but growing up in the 90s, my mum used to be like, "Don't talk to strangers." I remember like being in my 20s and people asking me for directions and being like, yeah. So I think there's a way to address sensitive subjects with children, and this book is my attempt at doing that.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the best book in the world, but it's the only attempt I've seen out there that does that. So um, Jack is innocently playing a game online, meets a new friend. He thinks it's a Yorkshire Terrier. He goes to meet the Yorkshire Terrier in a park after school, and it turns out it's actually a pair of puppy snatchers that
Mm.
take him away and stick him in a shed. Um, there's the aspect of a couple of people wanted to take in what they thought was a stray dog. That's the best way I could do it, and without having a human boy as the lead character. So having a dog instead. So yeah, and the element of the fact that we have instincts about things and we don't voice it, and that's quite
Yeah.
dangerous. So his best friend feels nervous about the fact that he's going to meet a stranger, and she just doesn't say anything about it because she thinks, well, I'm just being a bit silly, and
Yeah.
turns out she's right. And then the way that this links to cybersecurity is his friend Polly Poodle uses Shodan to hack into a CCTV camera, retrospectively sees what's happened. I don't know, maybe she's magic. Maybe that technology exists. I don't know. I don't think it does. I made it up. And she tracks him down using OSINT and finds him and rescues him. So um, the prince of the story is a girl as well.
Love that. Love that. I think you are right though, because yeah, like when I was growing up, I always was very aware of like the outside world dangers, but not like online, because we were still like, well, I was still sort of on the cusp of like, playing outside, but also being on, MSN and Bebo and things like that. So I think it's
Yeah.
definitely like something that we didn't really have to think about growing up. But I think if we were to now become parents, it's something that's so important for them to understand. But yeah, you are right. It's like, how do you get that across without scaring them about being online completely? Because obviously that's where the world is, but
Mm-hmm.
also just having that sort of instinct and understanding. And when you were sort of, well, whether you did research or not about the other books out there, are there a lot of books out there for kids about this?
There's a lot of books out there for kids that are more aimed at the parent, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So the parent might feel good about buying it. So I can't think of any examples.
The
I mainly looked
child
on,
might not enjoy reading it.
yeah, it's not actually for a child. It's not actually a
Yeah,
story for a child. Or there's information that's like, lists of check this, check that, don't provide this information, don't take pictures of yourself, don't send this, don't send that. And that's boring. That's absolutely boring. So, like, we all remember the hungry caterpillar. We don't all know what it was, but we realize it's a book about a caterpillar. This, I'm trying to do the same thing, where it's a story about a dog that thinks he's meeting someone off the internet, and actually it turns out to be someone else. That is just the crux of the story, and if kids just realize that that's a thing, that's important. So, when I don't know how old you are, but when we were younger, by the sounds of it, similar to me, you'd play outside, you'd
yeah,
know those friends, you'd go to like a club and you'd meet those friends. Like, not I know I'm from Doncaster, but I wasn't like, yeah, in a club in my nappy. No, I mean like a kids
yeah,
thing, like dancing or whatever. And then you had your kids from school. Whereas now, a kid, they'll have their game, I don't know, Xbox, whatever, or a PC game. They'll put the headset on, and they can be talking to anyone of any age in that game,
yeah,
and that's really scary. And I remember when I was at uni doing digital forensics, there was a guy that was doing I think he was doing a PhD thesis at the time, and his was all about how boys especially are being targeted um, on computer games by predators, sexual predators, because they're alone in their room. Their parents, like, they're safe, they're upstairs, they're in the
yeah,
bedroom, they've got a headset on, and they're getting groomed while they're innocently playing a game.
yeah.
And there has been cases of like kids going to meet, men, and they think that they're someone of the same age. So there needs to be some nice stories that are fun and have a happy ending that kids can enjoy and actually learn something.
Yeah, like a subtle moral to the story, I suppose, which is what all kids' books
Yeah.
are. They've all got a moral, but it's so subtle that kids maybe will get it, adults definitely will. Taking this as like a level up, where do you think the sort of education needs to come from? Because obviously there's so much that parents can do, but maybe parents are a little bit sort of preoccupied or a little bit naive into, like you said, they're safe upstairs, they're playing a game. You don't assume that they're, talking to strangers online. Where do you think this needs to come from? Do you think it needs to be like a government scheme that needs to happen, a school education, or just more, yeah, more books or TV shows about it?
I think this is such a pervasive problem that it needs to come from all angles. So we can't dump more on school teachers.
Yeah,
Parents are, you know, working hard to just make ends meet in a lot of cases.
yeah,
And as long as their kids safe, fed, warm, got a roof over their head, they're like, okay, I'm kind of doing a good job.
yeah,
Now I've got to do this. So there's
yeah,
like all of these different things. So there's apps out there that you can get. Sorry, I didn't come prepared with the name of them. I'm really sorry. Um, where you can have, so my friend Linda has this. Hi Linda, Barbara, please comment the app name in the comments. Um, where you can have an app on your phone, and it will your children's phone will feed into yours. So if they get a friend request on an app that
right,
they're using, like on social media, so if they get a friend request, it goes to the parent and they can sort of verify it. They can verify apps before they download them, all those kinds of things. I think if you get a kid a game, or a console, check the settings. Just check the settings, have a look at the manual, take, an hour out of your day. You've
yeah,
got a bit of time to just check the settings and see if there's any sort of privacy settings you can enable.
yeah.
Um, use Google to your absolute advantage, and schools absolutely have to get on board with this. I think a priority should be put on this for especially primary school age kids.
Yeah, because I think you like to think, oh, children that young aren't really at the point where they should be meeting strangers online or have the freedom to do, what they want online, but the reality is they are all on iPads. They've all got phones now at that age. Like,
It's insane. It's
it
absolutely
is
insane.
insane because, and yeah, and I think that's why it's missed so much at that level. It's because you think, oh well, they're too young, but it's like they're learning about all these other huge sort of ideology that is so big, but they're not, you know, it's not they're not learning about something they can apply to their lives quite easily. So yeah, I think,
No, exactly. And I think even if, I mean, we've all got that friend that they've got a baby that's fresh out the womb and it's got a phone. And
yeah, or
you're
an
like,
Instagram account or something like that, like that
yeah.
they post, but
And you're like, what are you doing?
yeah,
And they're like, oh no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Which is in a way admirable that it doesn't even go into that person's head that someone would abuse that.
yeah,
And that's nice. And they're probably just quite naive in that sense. But on the flip side, there might be a kid in that class that something is happening and then they hear a story, or they've been recommended to read this and they think, oh, that is wrong, or maybe I shouldn't meet that person, or they don't have a phone and it just preemptively gives them a little bit of knowledge.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
not?
because I think everyone's gonna have to use this at some point in their lives. Like, we'd like to think that you can get by without sort of having being in the situation, but I think you're right. Even if one person out of a group of friends understands the dangers of it, then it's something that they can all learn from, or at least, pick up on. And
Christ, Shannon, I'm a woman, a grown woman. I I've met a catfish online. Jesus, like we've
yeah, I
all.
mean, there's like a huge industry for catfishes now. There's a program on it. It's like so like it's a thing. Exactly. It catches us out at all points in life. Even silly things like you buy like tickets from a fake website, or just things like that. Like, you trust people online too much at some point in your life. So I think we could all learn something from it, really.